Watching HCAM TV.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Hopkinton Hangout Hour. Tom Nappi here, and today I am joined by my co-host Bob Hamilton. Bob, how are you?
Hi, Tom. And we welcome in Andrew Barron.
That's right. We got Andy Barron from Myfm 101.3, and we'll also have Jared Keene from the Metrowest Daily News joining us shortly. And today we are going to be talking some sports, a whole lot of sports going on. We got baseball playoffs coming up, believe it or not. We got the finals of the NBA, and the Celtics hoping to get a win against the Miami Heat tonight after they took game 3 to put themselves back in the series. And the winner of that Celtics-Miami series will advance to play the winner of the West, which will either be the Lakers or the Nuggets. Unfortunately, it'll probably be the Lakers, but you never know. And, of course, we have NFL action going on. The Patriots had a great game against Seattle. Well, in some areas not so great. But they kept it close and exciting the whole way through. So we'll talk about Cam Newton's performance in that game as well. And coming up in just a few weeks, we'll have high school sports starting up their season. Golf has already started. They are already in their tryouts, and Hopkinton, they're in day 2 tryouts right now. They'll be starting up their season. Their first match is on the 29th, so we're certainly looking forward to high school sports as well. Of course, as many of you probably already know, it's a very different season, very different year. For fall sports, it's going to be a little bit limited this year. They added the fall 2 season, which will take place starting in February until about early April after the winter season. But in the fall 1 season that's starting up right now, you have golf, field hockey, boys and girls soccer, and cross country. So no football in the case of the Hillers, no girls volleyball. Both of those sports moved to that fall 2 season, hoping that some of the restrictions that they would have to implement rule-wise will be lifted by then, since it was just too limiting to try to play girls volleyball right now with the serious amount of rule changes that would have been required because of state regulations, because of the COVID-19 virus. But in any case, we're excited, and HCAM is going to have a whole lot of coverage coming up for you this fall. We're going to have varsity and JV, boys and girls soccer, airing on HCAM Ed, and we're going to try to get you all those games live since no fans are allowed. We want to give the community an opportunity to watch their beloved Hillers. So we're going to be doing JV and varsity games, boys and girls soccer live, and also field hockey. We'll have live field hockey as well. And all the games in the fall they start up on Saturday, October 10th. It's going to be all weekend games minus the golf team and cross country team. The golf team, we're going to try to have some coverage for you. We won't be covering the matches, but we will be trying to get you some highlights and keeping you up to date with what's going on with the golf team. And the same for cross country. We'll certainly try to get you some highlights of how the cross country team is doing as well. But field hockey, girls and boys soccer, starting up Saturday, October 10th. We have a quadruple header coming up for you on HCAM Ed that Saturday, October 10th. We start off with JV field hockey bright and early at 9 a.m., and then we have varsity field hockey at 11 a.m., and then we have girls soccer, varsity girls soccer at 1:30 p.m., and then JV girls soccer at 3:30 p.m. So how about that? A quadruple header to start off the fall season here on HCAM. You can catch all those games airing live on our YouTube page, and perhaps HCAM Ed will certainly keep you updated about that as well. Jared Keene is here from the Metrowest Daily News. Jared, how are you?
I'm good, Tom. How are you, man? Thanks for having me on.
I'm doing well. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sorry it took me a minute. Sorry I'm a little late, guys.
Oh, that's all right. So, have you been doing any coverage of any of the preseason golf or any of the tryouts going on?
Haven't really gotten out there yet to like a practice. I want to get out to a practice soon and kind of do a little bit with that. Haven't really been able to get out. I did a story the other day kind of about some of the new field hockey regulations, mostly kind of about the, 7-on-7, what kind of some coaches and some athletes kind of thought of that. And then talked a little bit about kind of no penalty corners and things like that. But I haven't really gotten out and actually kind of gotten to a practice yet, which I want to kind of do soon and kind of see how things are going and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm excited for the season to start. Definitely looking forward to everything. And yeah.
What kind of feedback did you get about the field hockey regulations? What are the coaches and the players thinking about them?
It's funny. I actually talked to, I talked to a coach who was kind of a little bit more, disappointed. And I also talked to a coach who was kind of okay with it, knowing that 7-on-7 is actually still part of MIA field hockey, because that's how they handle overtime games in the postseason. So the one coach in particular that I talked to, who said he was kind of okay with it was like, yeah, I mean, it's kind of, we're already kind of used to it a little bit, and his team in particular has played in some of those games. So, the way he kind of saw it was, if there was, 7v7 is kind of the one thing that kind of is helping in terms of, he said if it was 11v11, there would have to be a lot of skill modifications and heavy rule changes like with soccer.
Right.
The fact that I think it's 7v7 is kind of, something still part of the game, and obviously something that some teams are gonna have to get used to, but at least there's no real heavy rule modifications or skill changes like there is with soccer. And that was kind of his basically standpoint. So yeah, I haven't really gotten like too much feedback though on it. So we'll see if any kind of feedback comes my way the next day or two about that. But
I'm sure you'll see a whole lot of subbing in and out with the 7-on-7.
yeah, it's going to be kind of like, it's probably going to be kind of like ice hockey, with, quick shifts, line changes, everything like that. So,
well, I know 3-on-3 hockey is very good. So who knows? Maybe this will be as exciting as that. And of course, we have Andy Barron with us from Myfm 101.3. You could hear him on the airwaves every Saturday at 11 a.m. until 1 p.m. Andy, how are things going with you? I understand you've been talking to some local sports personalities lately on your show. I believe you had the Holliston athletic director on this past week. What's some of the feedback you've been getting about the new rules in the fall sports season?
Well, thanks for having me here, Tom. How you doing, Jared? Hi, Bob. We did have Matt Baker on this past weekend. It was a great interview. We also had Tommy Castle on from the Metrowest Daily News. He came on for a little bit, and we've been very, very busy. Matt was a great interview. He was, pretty forthcoming on a lot of things. One of the questions I had asked him was, now that we kind of know what the fall is doing, what is going to happen for the winter and spring? And maybe it was a little vague, but it was very interesting in a way too, though, because he said that something should be coming down from the MIAA around November 3rd or 4th that will have an idea of what is going to happen with the winter and spring sports, since the Tri-Valley League, which I actually think is a good idea, is doing it in pods, keeping the towns close together. I really like how they've done that. But he basically said, we're really just taking it one day at a time. And another thing he said that was very interesting too was, we have a playbook for rainouts and snowstorms and anything else, but we don't have a playbook for the coronavirus. And it's so true, because we're all learning about it now.
Right.
And that was so, but I had to be reminded of that too, because this thing is exhausting to go through, like all these rule changes and schedule changes. But that's kind of what I took away from the interview. is they really just don't know. They're really just taking things one day at a time and just going from there. But I think we just gotta try to get through the fall season first.
Well, considering it's our first virus pandemic in 100 years or so, I think it's okay that they didn't pre-plan for this.
No. Yeah, exactly.
And hopefully we won't have another one ever again, but at least for another 100 years.
We hope.
Absolutely.
One thing I'll say, Andy, is I love Matt Baker. I think Matt Baker is a terrific athletic director. I think he's very well spoken. And I'm sure you probably got that a lot out of, from your interview with him. But he just, he knows the right thing to say.
Sure.
And he always he gives you what he's got. He's not going to try to beat around the bush with different things. He's just, he's just a good guy who, is just very helpful and very informative. And I kind of hope you feel I hope you feel the same way from your interview with him.
I've known Matt for many years. We actually used to work together at Framingham State. He's a very good friend of mine.
Okay. So you know him a little bit then.
I've known him for a long time, and yes, he's very informative. He's very upfront and honest, and he's very well spoken. And there's no doubt Holliston has the right man for the job there.
Absolutely, could not agree more. He's one of my favorite athletic directors around the area. That's for sure.
Well, he's certainly always been very easy to work with, and he's taken care of us. We do a lot of cross broadcasts with HCAT when it's a Hopkinton Holliston matchup, and he always takes good care of us. All right, so I want to get into the NBA a little bit. We got Celtics in Miami tonight, Game 4. Miami leading the series 2-1. The Celtics won Game 3 this past Saturday, and they finally got a few days off between the games. But it was a good performance by the Celtics, pretty dominant performance. Jaylen Brown put up 26 points in the win. Jason Tatum struck for 25. You had Marcus Smart put up 20. Kemba Walker put up 21. A nice dominant performance by the Celtics, and I felt that is what they needed after that brutal loss last Thursday in a game that I felt they should have won, but just could not hang on. They had the lead most of the way and ended up blowing it later in the game, and into overtime it went, and Miami took the victory, but the Celtics struck back, and I think that's what you're looking for on that Saturday game. So when they were down 2-0, my confidence level was at a low with this team, but they won that game Saturday. They had a few days off now. I think they're going to be ready to go, and I think Miami's a good team, a hungry young team, but I think the Celtics team just has too much talent. I'm expecting the Celtics to get back into this series. What are your thoughts on this Celtics Miami series? We'll start off with you, Jared.
I think it's obviously been an entertaining series. I do agree with you. Obviously, I thought it was huge for them to get that W the other night. I don't think you can afford to go down 0-3 to a team like Miami, who has proven how quality of a team they actually are. Obviously they have some very underrated players that are proven to be menaces, in this series. People like Goran Dragic, who's been an absolute force. Obviously Bam Adebayo has been insane. I mean, his block on Tatum, we could spend a whole hour talking about that block on Tatum alone.
Right.
The guy he's an animal inside. And then you add, again, you got Jimmy Butler, not to mention, who is obviously an extremely underrated player and has proven the type of player that he is in this league. But yeah, obviously a huge victory for the Celtics. I thought Jaylen Brown was tremendous, and I think his impact on this team, can never ever be overlooked. Both what he does at both ends of the floor. He's obviously a tremendous offensive talent. He's athletic, but he's also equally as good, if not better, defensively. I thought, Tatum has been as good as Tatum has been. I think some of Tatum's, the shots that his shot selection has been a little bit questionable. But again, then he's still putting up numbers. And then you got other guys still contributing. Kemba had a decent game the other night. Not to throw this one at you, Andy, but I thought Gordon Hayward came in and looked pretty good the other night. He had a nice little impact.
I knew that was coming, but that's okay.
Okay.
That's okay, Jay.
No, I thought he looked good. He looked kind of in the rhythm and just kind of back at it. I mean, obviously he'd put up huge numbers, but I thought he had at least an impact on the game when he came in. And I think this is, I think it's all positive for the Celtics hopefully going forward, and hopefully.
What's your prediction? We need a prediction.
A prediction for tonight?
A prediction for the series. What do you think?
Oh gosh, Tom, this is too tough, man.
Yeah, we're throwing you right in the fire here.
Celtics in 7.
All right, I like it. Andy, what are your thoughts on this Celtics Miami series? It looks like Saturday night, maybe the turning point. Maybe having Gordon Hayward back is the turning point. I had to throw that in. But
I'm outnumbered. Bob, jump in and help me out here, will you?
No, you can sink on your own, Andy.
Okay, hey, that's okay. Listen, guys, it was a nice win, no doubt about it. I said Game 3 was a Game 7. They had to win because those 2 losses were absolutely atrocious. I'm sorry. Terrible coaching, and I'm calling out the coach. Brad Stevens was outcoached in those 2 games by Eric Spoelstra.
I agree. I could not agree more.
Plain and simple. And this Heat team was a lot better than I thought. And the other thing I'm going to mention too is the Celtics need a leader to step in. Jimmy Butler is clearly the leader of the Heat right now. Where is the leader on that Celtics team? Because if they lose 3-1, if they go down 3-1 tonight, they're going to be in trouble. But no, Gordon Hayward, he helped, no doubt about it. I mean, he only had 6 points, but I think his presence definitely made a difference. There's no doubt about that. He's just should not be in the starting lineup. There's whether or not you like Marcus Smart or not, you can't mess with that right now. And there's things that drive me crazy about the guy, but no, I agree. He's a menace on the floor. He does pretty much anything he can do. So it's another huge game tonight. If they tie this thing up tonight, then there might be start getting some thoughts into the Heat's head that, all right, what are we going to do now? You know what I mean? So it's another huge game. They have to play with that same intensity. They have to come out. They need contributions for the bench. I did say Celtics in 6, but we'll see what happens tonight. I'll leave it at that.
All right. Should be interesting. And I definitely think going into those days off with the win, with the positive momentum is a big help. Obviously, Miami was rolling for a while after winning those 2 games, but then all of a sudden, Saturday, Celtics come right back. They get a dominant win. Then you get a few days off. So it'll be interesting to see tonight what team gets hot first. Obviously, both of these teams, pretty much, they've been playing every other day. It's not like the typical NBA playoffs where they have 3 or 4 days off between every game, which I'm loving this, by the way, because I can't stand how long the NBA playoffs last on a normal basis. But they had a few days off, so I think it'll be interesting to see what team has the momentum tonight. And you'd have to imagine after the Celtics coming off that dominant win Saturday, that momentum would likely be in their favor. Obviously, we'll see what happens, but I think it is going to be a good series. And I made you guys give predictions, so I'll give one. I'll say Celtics in 7. Bob, do you have any thoughts on the Celtics series and a prediction?
Just a couple things that Andy's right that the 3rd game was a must win. Obviously, it's like the 7th game, but I feel the same way about the 4th game. If the Celtics lose tonight, that's just going to put the Heat right back in it. And I personally don't think that the Celtics will recover from that. I don't think they've realized that they just haven't focused on these playoffs. They're treating them like it's a regular season game, and this is do or die. If they don't get it done, they're out because it's not going to happen. I just don't think the Celtics can do it.
Wow, Bob bringing the fire. I love it. And you are right. If they lose, they go down 3-1. I don't see them coming back in this series.
I don't either.
Then you got to go out and win 3 in a row against a tough, gritty Miami team.
Yeah.
You got to leave a little room for error, I feel like, with this team, because likely they'll drop at least one more. I can't imagine that they'll sweep through the next 3 games and take the series that way. They could, but you certainly want to leave a little room for error. So I guess if Miami wins the series, Bob has all the bragging rights.
Yeah, which is really nice in Boston. I can walk around bragging that I picked the Celtics to lose. That'll be good.
I will say this too, guys, whether you like him or not, Pat Riley knows what he's doing.
He does.
Yep.
Yeah.
He did not let LeBron James control that team. You got to
No.
give him credit.
I
He
agree.
said, "See you later." You got to give him credit.
Right.
He knows what he's doing.
Oh yeah, LeBron wanted Spoelstra gone, and he pretty much wanted to revamp the entire roster. And
Wouldn't do
Yep.
it.
Pat Riley said, "No, we're
He
not
didn't
doing
let them
that."
do it, and obviously Spolstra has proven how good of a coach he is.
He's good.
Because I agree with Andy. I think Brad was outcoached in the first 2 games, and I think it showed. And I think the different defensive looks that I think Miami threw at the Celtics. Obviously, I think threw the Celtics off a little bit, and Stevens has to be able to adjust to some of those. And when you can't adjust to different variations of his own defense, you're being outcoached. I mean, another thing I want to mention too is Annie mentioned, obviously Jimmy Butler is the leader of the Heat, and I think I agree, Andy. I'm not saying that Gordon Hayward should start. I think Marcus Smart definitely needs to be starting, and I think he deserves to be starting, not only with what he brings on the court in terms of his defense, his ability to make some shots and make plays for other people as well, but again, his leadership. I think he stepped up the other night after game 2, a tough game 2 loss. And I know, Stevens met with a bunch of the guys, and I think Smart was, I know he was vocal about it. And I think he was probably the one that hopefully I think brought them together. Was kind of like, brought Tatum and brought Jaylen Brown and some of these other guys together and showed what kind of hopefully a leader he was. And obviously we went out and got the dub. It was a little concerning that they got back into it kind of late in the game.
Yeah.
I think we have to get like a 40+ point lead against this team to be
Right.
happy.
They just keep coming at you.
Yeah,
They
that's
just-
the NBA.
They don't give up. But yeah,
That's a lot of leads. Can fade fast, and I don't want to throw this question in here either, but I'm gonna have to. Did Kyrie Irving ruin this team?
For a little while.
But I'm just saying, because I don't like the fact that Jason Tatum's talking to him. This guy Charles Barkley said it, 100% agreed. Nothing will ever make that guy happy. He's absolutely right. But you really have to start asking yourself this. I'm talking for the long term. And this is also another question I have too. I don't think Brad Stevens can handle these high profile players. I don't think he can do it.
I think you might have a case there. I think the problem with Stevens, he's a little young. So some of the high profile players might look at him like, you're younger than me. Why do I get to listen to you? I think some players such as Kyrie have that mentality. But I don't think the team's ruined. I mean, they're in the Eastern Conference Finals right now. They're battling every single game. They've had a couple of rough losses, but they battle. And they got the talent on this roster for sure. And we thought that after Kyrie left, I don't think we even thought they would be at this point this quickly. But you look at the roster, you look at that game Saturday, you had 4 of your starters scored 20+ points. They're working as a team. Obviously, sometimes they have flaws like taking too many threes and maybe hogging the ball a little bit. But I think they play as a team. I really do. I think there's good chemistry. I think they trust each other. And I think you don't have that poisonous stuff going on in the locker room that you had when Kyrie was here. So I think if this team pretty much keeps the core they got, they could be competitive on a year-in, year-out basis. I'm impressed with this roster.
That's some good points, no doubt about it. It just, it's just the way it's coming off. You know what I mean? Like, I agree with a lot of things you say, Tom, but man, what a disaster that was.
I think Kyrie's gone. I think
He's in Brooklyn.
Horrible mentality he left is gone.
I
think this is a all new team. And I think this is going to be a good series. We shall see. Game 4 tonight, 8:30 p.m. tip-off. Celtics and Heat. Miami leading the series 2-1. All right, I want to transition to NFL. Obviously, we just had week 2 happen. It was a very exciting week, unfortunately filled with a whole lot of injuries. Just injuries everywhere. You had Garoppolo get hurt for the 49ers, Nick Bosa get hurt for the 49ers. You had Saquon Barkley get hurt for the Giants. And these are
Christian McCaffrey.
Right.
Jimmy G got hurt again. What a shock.
Yep. So, I mean, you had at least a dozen big profile injuries this week. And the question has to be asked, is this because of the lack of the preseason? I mean, we know players get hurt in the NFL, but just seeing all these big names get hurt in 1 week, are the side effects of not having those preseason games and a limited training camp starting to hit the NFL guys? What do you think? Anybody just jump in?
I totally agree, guys. I think it has to be. Look, we were talking about this on the Buzz last weekend. I really think, and I'm starting to agree now, that these first 4 games are going to kind of be like an exhibition. You can see that a lot of things are kind of just out of sync. I mean, I didn't think the brand was very good this past weekend. I mean, there were a few good games, but I mean, you just look at the dumpster fire of the Atlanta Falcons down in Dallas. I mean, that team just finds a way to lose. Like that's a whole other topic. But no, seriously. Like, yeah, I think it is, and I think you're going to see a lot of this, unfortunately, going forward. At least for the first month, maybe 2 months going into the season.
Atlanta just invents new ways to lose.
That I couldn't believe they lost, but it is the Falcons.
I couldn't believe they lost either.
But it's the Falcons.
Unbelievable.
By the way, Jared, I love the hat. Love
But
that.
Yeah,
Tom,
I like it too, Jared.
Thank you.
One of
Thank
the
you, thank you,
questions
thank you.
I have is before we get into the actual games, and what about the fines? No, you're not going to talk about the fines?
Oh, the fines.
250,000 to teams for Seattle, and
Oh,
Carroll
yes.
fined 100,000 for
For the
not wearing
coaches
a
not
mask.
wearing masks.
That's a good point. Very good point. Yeah, they had that problem all over the NFL. They had it on Monday night in that game between the Saints and Raiders. Both John Gruden and Sean Payton getting fines from the NFL, and there was numerous other coaches. Hey, you got to follow the rules.
But
Get
it
them
just
out.
for me, it just begs the question: where's their focus? Are they focused on football, or are they focused on who's wearing a mask on the sideline?
point,
Right.
Bob.
That looks bad. Don't
Good
do
point.
that.
Good point.
Lost revenue. They need to make it up somehow.
Yeah.
Who were the other
But
coaches? It was Kyle Shanahan from the 49ers.
Pete
Carroll
Carroll.
too. Yep.
Pete Carroll. Yep.
And there was another guy too.
Oh,
Vic Fangio for Denver.
Vic Fangio,
Yep.
yeah.
He was fine too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then
Wow.
the teams got fined 250,000.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a pretty big fine. I mean, especially when you got no fans.
Yeah. Well, how
and
is
you're
Pete
losing
Carroll
all
going to
that revenue.
explain that to the owner? Oh yeah, you
Right.
got to kick in another $250,000 because I didn't wear my mask.
What they
Yep.
should do is get a mask like Belichick.
Yeah.
Love his mask. He has the bottom cut out of it.
That was
So
so
he
funny.
can talk right in the microphone.
Oh my god.
Hey, he's following the rules. He's not cheating. What is that?
He finds a way to follow the rules, do what he needs to do, but still make it work. And he's even doing that with the mask. The guy's a genius. I love
I
it.
didn't mean to distract you, but
No, that's a good point. I'm
Oh,
glad
that's a
you
good
brought
point,
that
Bob.
up.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting going forward. I mean, this has, maybe coming into the season, the NFL coaches weren't taking it seriously. I think week 1, I don't know if there was really any fines week 1. I think they maybe just kind of let them transition into it, and there wasn't too many fines in week 1. But week 2, they started hitting them. So this feels like the NFL is saying to these coaches and whoever's on the sideline, like, hey, you got to follow this mask rule or you're going to pay for it. And I think they'll start paying for it after watching all these coaches get fined. I can't imagine that owners or coaches are going to be happy losing $250,000 for the team and $100,000 out of the pockets of the coaches. So I'd imagine that they'll start following these mask rules after what happened this week.
I wouldn't be surprised if they had a special agent on the side making sure. Here's a mask, put it on. Here's another mask, put it on.
Right.
It's going to save money.
Well, hey, hire a mask coach just to make sure everyone's wearing their mask. It could be like that coach the Rams have that keep forget the Rams head coach's name at the moment.
Sean
but
McVay.
Sean McVay that keep McVay on the sideline from going out onto the field.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't know where he's walking half the time. So maybe you'll start seeing a guy falling around the coach. Hey, put on the mask. Put on the mask. I could see some teams doing that. I know they did bring in a sanitary coach for all the teams, so maybe they'll give the responsibility to that guy.
Tom, what do you think about the NFL stuff that happened this weekend? I'm actually for what it's worth, I pretty much agree with Andy. I think it definitely has a decent amount to do with no preseason. I'm not the biggest fan of preseason, but I think this is showing in terms of some of the significant injuries that happened this weekend. Obviously, injuries are kind of still part of the game, but you don't want to see guys like you don't want to see pretty much the top 2 fantasy picks in almost every draft probably going down with injuries, one for the season, not to mention 2 guys that are obviously really exciting players in the league, and then you throw in guys like Jimmy G and Nick Bosa, another, great young talent in the league, another good young talents in the league. But Tom, what do you think about that? Are you in agreement for the most part?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think not having a preseason, not having those preseason games and a limited training camp certainly has to affect them. I mean, I'm sure they had practices where there was contact, but are they letting the quarterbacks get hit in practices? The quarterbacks even used to being hit. They haven't been hit in months. So you're breaking right into the season. Everybody's trying to win. Everyone's trying to make a statement. There's obviously been a lot of big hits in these first couple of weeks. And typically, you kind of ease into it with those preseason games. This year, you didn't have that. So I think just going right into the season has certainly affected that. I hope we don't continue to see this. I'm sure there's going to be injuries, but I'm hoping we don't see the amount of injuries we saw last week because it's just bad for the game. And you certainly don't want to lose all the superstars and have all the best players get hurt. I'm very interested to see what happens injury-wise in week 3, but I hope after that teams are saying to their players, all right, we're going full contact in practice here. We got to get used to hitting. We got to get used to taking hits. And we have to, make sure we're stretched out and ready to go. And I'm sure when teams are looking at all these players that got hurt and just the big names on that list, that they're not taking anything for granted. And they know they got to be ready for week 3. But yeah, it's, in my opinion, definitely had an effect and a negative impact injury wise. And I think that was kind of expected heading into this thing without the preseason. I guess none of us knew how bad it would be. And it's only been 1 week, so I'm not going to say it's going to be terrible yet. But it's, would you have all those injuries from all those big names in week 2 if there was a preseason? Probably not.
Right.
So it should be interesting going forward. But one of the best games of the week, or the most entertaining games, was certainly the Patriots and the Seahawks. Boy, did Cam Newton put on a show. He was responsible for, in one way or the other, either passing or rushing, for all the Patriots' yards except about 30 of them. And they had 494 yards of offense. And Newton was responsible for, I think it was 461 yards of the offense for the Patriots. He put on a show. He played great. And he, when you went into that game, none of us really expected the Patriots to win, maybe keep it close, but they almost won. They were 1 play away from winning. That horrible play call at the 1 yard line, end the game by McDaniels, is what ultimately made the difference. That was one of the worst play calls I've ever seen McDaniels call. I guess Seattle got a little revenge in that way. Obviously not on as big of a platform, but it was a great game. I was really surprised about how productive the offense was. I was really impressed with N'Keal Harry making some good catches, making some plays. Maybe he's taking a step up. If he keeps playing like that, I'll be more than happy with him. And you have to have other receivers step in besides Edelman. And you did. You had a few. You had Bird, who looks good. You had Harry step in. And, those are the 2 guys that really took a big chunk of the receptions minus Edelman. And hopefully more will step in as time goes on. But some very encouraging signs on the offense for sure. But there wasn't very encouraging signs on the defense. Gilmore got burned up and down the field, and that defense, they just got burned all throughout the game. They could not stop Russell Wilson and that offense. And I know it's a great offense, but if you want to go to the postseason and just even looking at the regular season schedule, you're going to be playing a lot of tough offenses. So the defense has me a little bit concerned. What did you guys think about that Patriots Seahawks game this Sunday? Andy, give us your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of encouraging signs to take out of the game. Tom, like you said, I thought the Patriots receivers played their best game in a very long time. Guys got open. Cam Newton distributed the ball. I even saw Jacoby Myers make 1 or 2 catches. Damiere Byrd got open. And I still don't know how N'Keal Harry held onto that ball when he got hit in the head. What a play. I'm going to tell you something.
I know. That was
he is
brutal.
he is not afraid to go over the middle. I tell
Uh-huh.
you, and granted, maybe the speed is not there like DK Metcalf has, but he's not afraid to go over the middle. And he's pretty tough to bring down. So that was an encouraging sign. Cam Newton went back to him. Tom Brady didn't do that last year. That's a good sign. Edelman was great, but where was the running game? Kind of thought they went away from it a little bit. You know, they had such a great success running the ball earlier against Miami, but I felt like they went away from that. And obviously, what a tragedy to hear about James White's family. That was horrible. Just, I feel so bad. I love James White. He is the true ultimate Patriot player, and we hope that please our condolences to his family. And so I think, yeah, the defense was terrible. No, period. They stunk, plain and simple. But it just goes to show you the offense. They still can put up points if they had to. This was a seesaw game, back and forth, and it's a loss. You know, it stinks, but we're gonna get back at it this week, and it's not going to be an easy matchup. The Las Vegas Raiders, they have impressed me, guys.
Oh yeah, that game they had against the Saints on Monday night.
That's an impressive win.
I think they actually might be for real this year. The Raiders might be for real. If they play offense like that every week, they're going to win a lot of games over. And
I know the Saints. The Saints didn't have Michael Thomas, and Michael Thomas is again probably a top 3 or 4 receiver, obviously in the league. But and I think that probably impacted the game a little bit. But still, I think you got to give credit to the Raiders, definitely.
Yeah, and Brees just did not look right in that game. He did
no,
not play
he looked
well.
off.
So to your point, Andy, yeah, certainly condolences to James White's family. That whole story was just horrible.
Agreed. Agreed.
But and Kill Harry, I feel, kind of threw a shot at Tom Brady in an interview. He stated, "It's good to have trust from my quarterback."
Wow.
And I have to imagine that Kill Harry was probably frustrated last year. Brady, we know he can be a little strict with the young guys. And then Kill Harry seems like someone that was constantly getting yelled at. So I think Cam Newton, to me, the vibe I'm getting is that he's a very positive person on the field, off the field, and he tries to lift guys up, which I think is a great quality. Brady was obviously frustrated because there was a lack of weapons last year. He didn't have the talent he wanted around him. And I could see why, as if you're a legendary quarterback like Brady, you want talent around you. And, Brady, I was probably in the mindset that, like, hey, I only got a few years left. You'd think they would surround me with talent, but they surround me with this. So I get his frustrations. But Cam Newton, he's just happy to be out there playing and getting another opportunity. He sat in free agency unsigned for a few months, and he was fearing that he might never get a shot to play again, or at least until somebody gets injured. And the Patriots called him up and said, come to New England. He's very happy to have that opportunity. And I think he's having a great impact on the field with these young receivers. I think you might have found the guy perhaps that is best for this year's Patriots team with what they got. Brady, I think, I'm a guy that never wanted to see Brady leave, but I think when you're looking at this year's team, maybe a guy like Newton is the best to have on the roster. Jared, what were your thoughts about this week's Patriots Seahawks game?
Well, again, like you guys have said, I think it was it was a great game. And as you mentioned, Tom, they were pretty much one play away. That play call was horrendous. That can't be overlooked. I think you have to have a passing outlet on a type of play like that. You're pretty much throwing all your eggs in one basket when you're
or even a sweep. Why didn't they at least try a sweep?
Where's Rex Burkhead? Even Jakob Johnson, who got open on the other touchdown.
Right.
Yep. Go ahead, Jared.
I completely agree. I thought that was just atrocious. That was too easy to read. I mean, the Seahawks knew exactly that was coming, and but you got to be impressed with Cam. I mean, again, I think to all your guys' points, I thought he was extremely impressive in the way he distributed the ball. And again, that last play obviously isn't his fault. He ran the ball well. And shown that he's, willing to kind of work with some of these younger receivers like N'Keal Harry, who, again, I thought, like you guys said, had a great game. It's interesting. I think it was Bill Barnwell compiled a list of quarterbacks who are making more guaranteed money, I think, this year than Cam Newton. And some of the names on that list were ridiculous.
I'm sure he's going to make it wet.
Jeff Driscoll, Andy Dalton,
Oh, God.
Marcus Mariota, Nathan Peterman, friggin' Nathan Peterman. Really?
Well, you know, if Newton keeps playing like this, he's going to get paid. He's going to get a long-term deal.
Yep. So I thought, I was very impressed with him. But again, the defense, it's funny because obviously as poor as the defense played, and you don't want to get, or you don't want to see somebody like Stephon Gilmore get burned so frequently. DK Metcalf is a good receiver who torched him obviously on that, long touchdown. And he was definitely getting beat up and down the field. But yeah, I mean, the secondary needs some work. And, Gilmore's not going to get burned like that every week. But I think as poorly as the defense played, you also definitely have to give credit to Russell Wilson. This guy is
unreal.
Yeah, I mean,
Great player. Yep.
He's an outstanding talent.
Yeah.
5 touchdowns to 5 different receivers, made it look easy. I'm pretty sure, I think I saw that he's only the second quarterback in the Patriots, in the Belichick coached Patriots era, to throw for 5 touchdowns in a game against the Patriots. Obviously, I think Drew Brees is the only other one.
I just imagine if that Seattle team had a defense.
Right.
They have unbelievable weapons, but if that team had a defense, ooh, look out.
So, yeah, I mean, I think you got to give credit to Russell Wilson, I think, in that situation. And, again, the secondary and the defense definitely need some work. But, again, I think even some of the bigger story there is Cam. I think you have to be impressed with Cam and the way, again, he distributed the ball, handled himself, his willingness to work with the younger receivers and go back to them and trust them. I think we need a little bit more help. I think we got to start to kind of, still need a little bit more on the receiving core a little bit and get some of these tight ends involved. Because I think Edelman, Harry, and Bird can only probably at least contribute so much, and they've contributed obviously a lot so far.
I like Bird. I picked him up on my fantasy team. He has potential.
There you go. Yeah. No, Jared's right. We got to get the tight ends out there. Dalton Keene still has been out for 2 weeks. Ryan Izzo, has done okay, but yeah, there's really no tight end presence on this team right now.
No, it's sort of like last year. Bob, what'd you think about that Patriots Seahawks game? Pretty entertaining, huh?
It was a pretty good game. I actually had picked the Seattle to win, but Andy, I thought, brought up a good point. Where was the running game? I'm going to be negative and say I agree. I'm not a Cam Newton fan, but he really played a good game. But I just hope the Patriots don't start saying that, or that Cam doesn't start thinking he has to carry this whole team. All those yards were from him, basically. And if he starts that, there's no telling how he's going to hold up. Because as you mentioned in the Seattle game, I think they were keying on him when he came out for that goal line stand. They knew he was getting the ball. Whether he was going to pass or run didn't matter, but they just had to watch him and see what's happening. They can't just focus on the quarterback. Maybe they got in a bad habit with Brady because he always came through. And maybe Cam will as well. But I just am concerned that he's not going to be allowed to have the flexibility to hand the ball off and confuse some defense out there.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons why they got away from the run too is Seattle was putting up quick touchdowns, just quick points. So Cam was trying to respond and do that back to Seattle. I think that's one of the reasons, but also the run game wasn't too effective at the start. They had a couple 3-and-outs, and then they went to the pass and things started happening. So I think that was part of the reason. I think they just transitioned to the direction the game was going. But yeah, you certainly want to see more of the run game, and you want to see those running backs be effective. And when you're playing good teams like that, it'll be interesting to see, can this run game be effective, or will you have to go all pass? They certainly have some talent at the running back position between James White, who was obviously unavailable Sunday, and Rex Burkhead and a number of other guys. But I think they just got in the shootout mode more or less. Right. And I think that's
good point. Good point. Yeah. Just one of those games.
I think it's just a combination of James White being out and obviously just kind of the direction the game was going. You know, in terms of why they kind of got away from the run game a little bit. But I mean, yeah, I'd have liked to seen them still run the ball a little bit more. but I think that was just again kind of how things were going. But obviously, outside of James White in the run game, James White can obviously be used heavily in the pass game too. To add another little dimension to, maybe not using the tight ends as much or whatever right now.
Oh yeah,
kind of take some
especially
of
as
the
a
pressure
slot
off.
guy.
Oh,
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So speaking of NFL picks, Bob mentioned it. The 4 on the show pick last week was myself. I went 13-2. Mike went 14-1. Tommy Castle went 14-1, and Kevin went 12-3. So some good picks last week. And right now we're going to run through all the week 3 games. We're going to pick the winners of those games. We'll start off with Thursday night football. The Dolphins at the Jaguars. I'm very interested in this Florida matchup. The Jaguars and Titans put on a show last week. That was a fun game. They had an absolute shootout. I'm going to go with the stash and Gardner Minshew and the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think they'll take care of the Dolphins. Andy, who are you going with in this one?
Yeah, I agree with you, Tom. I think the Dolphins are the Dolphins. I was impressed with the Jaguars, even though they lost. Gardner Minshew, he looks good. I like the Jaguars in this game.
All right, Jared, who do you got?
This is a tough one, honestly. I'm sort of a little bit. I don't really know what direction to go. I think my gut instinct though says Jaguars.
All right, go with your gut instinct.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, Gardner Minshew has been impressing.
Bob, who do you got?
Yeah, I picked the Jaguars too. I don't have a lot of faith in the Dolphins. I never have, but I shouldn't let that influence me. But I think the Jaguars are going to beat them this week.
All right, there you have it. Mike also sent in his picks. He picked the Jaguars. All right, we got the Texans and Pittsburgh. I have zero faith in the Texans. I think Deshaun Watson has looked pretty horrible and like a shell of himself in recent years. I just don't know if they can get any offense going. I got to go Pittsburgh. That offense looks really good with Big Ben back and healthy for the most part. Andy, who do you got in this one?
Oh, my gosh. The Texans are horrible. That team is horrible. Please, Steelers by 3 touchdowns.
Jared.
Steelers. I don't know. I mean, I think Houston getting rid of Hopkins is
starting to look like it might hurt.
Showing.
You think?
Yeah.
I mean, I know they brought in David Johnson. David Johnson's a good player, but
he is.
Steelers is the pick here.
Yeah, and I don't even think it's all that. Just Deshaun Watson just doesn't look good.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the preseason thing really getting to him or what, but I mean, I'm sure he'll improve a little bit, but I don't know. Bob, who do you got? Houston or Pittsburgh?
Yeah, since all you guys are on the fence, I think I'll go with Pittsburgh because there's no doubt the Texans don't know where they're going.
All right. So we got the 0-2 Bengals and the 0-2. Oh, and Mike picked Pittsburgh, by the way. 0-2 Bengals and the 0-2 Eagles. This is an interesting one. The Eagles, they don't know how to win a game. They just know how to blow leads and lose horribly. I don't know. Both of these teams aren't looking great right now. I guess I'll go Philly for the experience factor since the Bengals are so young. Andy, who do you got?
If you are a Bengals fan, okay, you have to be impressed with Joe Burrow. Listen, he drove him down the field against the Chargers. The kicker missed a 30-yarder. And he had him in the game against the Browns as well. This guy can play. Bengals are going to win this game.
All right. I like it. Jared.
Again, this is another tough one because both teams are, I don't know, like
Terrible.
Maybe should slightly be doing a little bit better than they are. And again, you have to be impressed with Burrow, but I feel like it's only a matter of time until the Eagles have a breakout game. Oh man.
All right, time's a factor.
I'm going I'm going Eagles.
All right, Bob, who do you got?
Yeah, I don't know. Do they have ties now? Both of them?
Yeah,
Anyway,
you could go with a tie.
Yeah, 3-3 game. But I think that I'm going to pick the Eagles.
All right, I'll say Philly or tie for you.
Yeah. If I get paid double for a tie.
We'll talk after the show. 49. We'll give you 2 wins if you get a tie. 'Cause
Yeah.
that would be pretty impressive. 49ers.
Actually, you know what, Tom? I'm going to change to Cincinnati. Put me down. Put me down for the Bengals on that one. I think this is where Burrow gets a big win here.
Yeah.
All right,
So
you
my
got it.
argument convinced Jared to go to the. Okay. I
And Mike,
stick with the Eagles.
Mike didn't send that pick, so I'll have to ask him after the show.
Yeah, he couldn't even make it.
49ers, Giants. Man, you might not have Jimmy G. You definitely want to have Barkley. I'll go 49ers in this one anyway. Andy, who do you got?
I am so glad we don't have Jimmy Garoppolo anymore. This guy is so unreliable. But the Giants are terrible. That's another bad football team. No Barkley. Yeah, the Giants are still in New York too because they played the Jets last week. That was a good one. Now give me the Niners.
All right, Jared.
Niners by default because the Giants stink, and especially now without their best player.
Bob.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that I'm picking the Niners too because everybody's terrible. So
Game of the week, Raiders, Patriots. This is going to be a battle. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. You know what? I think Cam Newton gets it done this week. I'm going Patriots. Andy, who do you got?
Yeah, I think so. And here's another thing I think that's going to be a factor real quick. This is the Raiders' second time coming to the East Coast in 3 weeks. That does catch up to you. They have a short week this week because of the Monday night game, but it's going to be a tough game. This is not going to be a cakewalk, but the Patriots, I think, will win by – they're going to win. I just don't know by how much.
That is a good point you brought up because teams – they can't stay on the East Coast anymore. They have to fly all the way back and then fly all the way back to the East Coast. They don't want players lounging around in other cities, I guess. They want to keep them close to the stadium. Jared, who do you got? Raiders, Patriots?
Well, I am wearing a Patriots hat right now. I think it would be a little ridiculous if I picked against the Patriots.
I got a Patriots glass here.
Yeah. Oh, very nice. This hat was actually a gift from my buddy, by the way. But I'm going with the Patriots. But again, like Andy said, I think it's not going to be a cakewalk. I think the Raiders are going to play with some confidence coming off a win against the Saints. I'm going to say the Patriots by a touchdown or less.
All right.
Could even be the Patriots by 1. Could be the Patriots by a field goal. But touchdown or less, definitely.
Oh, yeah. I say probably a field goal. Bob, who do you got?
yeah, I'm going to pick the Patriots. I think the travel is going to be a tough thing for the Las Vegas Raiders. I got to learn to say that. Las Vegas Raiders.
Say it 3 times fast.
Yeah, and I'm glad they're out of Oakland because I never liked the Oakland Raiders.
Yeah, that's a nice stadium over there in Vegas.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks great. I thought you could say it was a nice stadium in Oakland. I'm like, oh, that stadium was horrible.
Let me guess, Tom. Mike picked the Raiders.
Yes. No, Mike picked New England.
Okay.
He might have if he was on the show. Who knows?
Yeah.
Tennessee and Minnesota. I don't know what's going on with Minnesota. They were supposed to have a good defense, but it hasn't looked good at all. I'm going to go Tennessee in this one. They're looking like a pretty good all-around team. Andy, who do you got?
Yeah, I like Tennessee. They're a good team. They're well balanced. Minnesota looks horrible right now. I bet you they wish they kept Stephon Diggs.
Oh yeah, Buffalo's liking him. Jared, who do you got?
Tennessee. Kirk Cousins had one of the worst fantasy weeks, by the way, I've ever seen last week. I think he went 6 of something with 3 interceptions, and that was I don't know what that was, but that was just atrocious. That was absolutely atrocious. I'm going Tennessee.
All right, Bob.
Yeah, I think Tennessee's going to do it this week. Yeah, I'm picking Tennessee.
All right, so clearly Mike didn't look at all the games. You missed this pick too. The Washington football team and the Browns. Well, the Washington football team started off this season with a win. They didn't look great last week. Cleveland, I think, is starting to put it together a little bit. We know they have a lot of talent on offense. They couldn't really put it together last year, but I think they'll put it together and beat Washington. I'm going Browns. Andy, who do you got?
I'm taking Washington because I have absolutely no confidence in the Cleveland Browns whatsoever that they're going to get it right. Washington.
All right. It surprises me you have faith that Washington will get it right, but okay.
I got to pick somebody.
Jared, who do you got?
Having faith in Washington with Dwayne Haskins at QB. Sheesh. I'm going to go I'm gonna go Browns.
All
I'm going
right.
Browns. I just think Baker's gonna outplay. I don't know.
All right. We're good.
I wouldn't be surprised if I got this one wrong though.
Well, you never know what direction this is going to go. Bob, who do you got?
Yeah. Jared convinced me. I'm going with the Browns.
All right. Mike went Browns. We're going to fly through the rest of these. We got about 6 minutes left. Rams and Bills. This is going to be a great matchup. And the Rams are looking good.
Agreed.
I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I think it's going to be a very interesting game. Rams have to go to the East Coast. I'm kind of torn on this one, but I guess I'm going to go Rams for this one. I think they'll get the win. Andy, who do you got?
I like the Rams too. I like the way they're playing. Just we need to stop with this Josh Allen MVP talk. Enough. Rams win.
All right, Jared.
Bills. Josh Allen is playing at a high level. They have talent on both sides of the ball. Receivers are looking good. Bills.
All right. I don't think you can really go wrong on this one. Bob, who do you got?
I like the Bills in this one. I think the Bills can do it against the Rams. I think it's going to be too much for the Rams to travel out here. They're too big of prima donnas anyway. They need to go back to LA.
Bears and Falcons. There's no way I'm choosing Atlanta after what they did last week. I'm going Bears. Andy, who do you got?
Oh my God, please. Bears.
Jared.
I'm going Falcons.
I hope they get up by 30 and blow it. Bob.
Yeah, I like the Bears. Of course, I always like the Bears, but I think they'll beat the Falcons.
All right. Mike didn't even send me half the game, so we're just going to ignore his picks. Panthers and Chargers. I'm going to go Chargers. That quarterback who ended up starting out of the blue last week looked pretty good.
Justin Herbert.
Yeah, he looked good. And he looks like he's not afraid of anything out there. So I think the Chargers. Andy, who are you going with?
Yeah, I have to agree, Tom. And he went against the Chiefs, and they took the Chiefs right to the wire. I am going to take the Chargers this week.
All right, Jared.
Chargers.
Bob.
Chargers. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the Chargers are going to do that. I haven't had a chance to watch him that much, but I like that quarterback.
All right, Jets, Colts. Jets are terrible. I'm going Colts. Andy, who do you got?
Oh my gosh. How does Adam Gase have a job? Really?
Colts across the board. Colts across the board here.
All right, everyone going Colts. All right,
Yeah,
Colts across
I'm
the
going
board.
Colts. Yeah.
Cowboys, Seahawks. Cowboys should have lost last week. They amazingly won. I'm going Seahawks. They're looking good. Andy.
Yeah, I like the Seahawks too, Tom.
Jared.
Seahawks.
Bob.
Well, I don't know if Pete Carroll will be able to afford the trip, but I'm going with Seahawks.
All right, Buccaneers, Broncos. Brady looking good last week against the Panthers. Looked a little better, and certainly love that Brady Evans combination. I'm going Bucks here. Andy, who do you got?
Just real quick, Tom, you can't discount Tom Brady has not played well in Denver in his whole career, even though there's going to be like no fans there. I am going to take the Bucks, but that's going to be a close game.
That is a good point. He hasn't played well there. Jared, who do you got?
Bucks, just based on the fact that Denver is obviously, Denver's starting Jeff Driscoll at QB. Jerry Jeudy is banged up. Cortland Sutton is out for the season. Their best receiver. You got to go Bucks here.
All right, Bob.
I'm going to pick Denver. I think Denver has a good chance up there. Like Andy said, Brady hasn't played well against them, and I don't see him doing any better.
I like it. Lions, Cardinals. Kyler Murray is looking good. The Lions are not. I'm going Cardinals. Andy.
Oh my gosh, please. The Cardinals are for real. They know what they're doing. The Lions are garbage. Cardinals.
Jared.
Chalk it up, Cardinals.
All right. There you have it. Cardinals. Bob. Who are you going with?
Yeah, I wanted to extend the suspense. Cardinals.
Okay. There you go. This is going to be a great Sunday night game. Packers and the Saints. I'm looking forward to this one. I think this is going to be a shootout. I think the Saints get back on track. I think they will. I'm going to go Saints here. Andy.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Saints get back on track this year. Aaron Rodgers doesn't play well against the Saints usually. Saints win.
Jared.
Michael Thomas plays, give me the Saints. If Michael Thomas doesn't play, give me the Packers.
No, you gotta just pick one.
Oh man. Where's the game? Is it in New Orleans?
Yeah. Yes.
Give me the Packers.
All right.
Why not? Give me the Packers.
Bob.
And I'm grateful we only have a minute left, so I'm saying the Packers.
All right, Chiefs Ravens. I'm gonna go Chiefs. Andy.
Ravens are going to win this week. I'm
All
going with
right.
the Ravens. Yep.
Jared.
This is gonna be a great game. Give me the Ravens.
All right, Bob.
Yeah, I picked the Ravens.
All right, love it. All right, that's our show. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow at 2 p.m. on the Hangout Hour. And we'll have the health director of Hopkinton on to give us a health update. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Take care and be well.